Welcome to my review of Hunter x Hunter Volume 21. I am going to apologize in advance. We're trying things a little bit differently with this review, and also there's just so much to talk about. My organization may have not been the best because we're gonna be talking about so much. We're gonna talk about the many fights between Killua and Shoot. We're talking about Gon and Killua, their ventures after what happened after Shoot, the Chimera King, the Extermination Squad, the Chimera leaders breaking apart, Palm and Gon's date, Killua versus Ramuh, Kite, and the build-up to the most insane finale of the manga. And I know we're not, or sorry, the arc. I know we're not near the end of the arc, but we are now building towards the fights between the Royal Guards and the Kings. We have so much to get through, and I took a lot of notes, and I'll be honest, this is probably the most amount of notes I have taken across anything. So I'm a little bit worried that this review might be a little bit messy. Okay, we're just gonna kind of go down the list of how I've organized these notes. So bear with me as we get through this. Let's start with the Killua versus Shoot fight. This is a very fascinating fight because, let's just be honest, Killua had no chance of beating Shoot in this fight. However, the importance of this fight is for Togashi to let us know how much Illumi has gotten into the brain of Killua. And we'll talk about it. Literally, this is just Killua trying to break free and trying to deprogram himself from the constant threat of Illumi. Illumi constantly telling him to run away, to jump back, as Illumi feels that anytime Killua is feeling threatened or in the presence of someone stronger than him, he must run away. This was the whole purpose that Biscuit was trying to tell Killua, that you're gonna get Gon killed if you're always going to flee from a hard battle. And through this fight, we find out that Shoot is able to take parts of your body away and store it in his bird cage. And we'll talk about the bird cage when we talk about Kite later on. But it's one of these really cool things where you know that Shoot did something, but seeing it happen and having Killua in this moment where he's like, do I run away? Do I not? Freaking out about all of this. At the same time, now he's like, I lost my left eye. What the hell is going on? It just lends more and more to his pain. And we have this eventual moment that's just really, really depressing, where it's kind of like, it's Killua admitting defeat in this moment where he's like, I'm just not strong enough. Even when I was able to gather the anger to attack Shoot, he dodged me. He is just easily able to avoid my attacks, and he's easily able to hit me like I am too weak, which means that I have to leave Gon after he gets back his neck. And that stuff is just really sad because Togashi just does such a good job of just visualizing the despair in Killua's eyes of this loss. Now, let's cut to who won the fight. And it's Knuckle and Shoot. But, God, this Togashi freaking teased us. You'll see this in my reaction where I was freaking out about this. But Moral and Nav kind of had a bet going on who would join. Obviously, Moral was like, yeah, my students are going to join. And Nav was like, hey, all 5 of them are going to show up. And we see 4 of them show up. And for the moment, I was freaking out, like, oh my god, they work together and they're all coming together. Let's freaking go. And then it's like, actually, no. It's just Gon and Killua wishing Knuckle and Shoot off. And we get this really sad moment where Gon is just tearing up and crying, saying, like, please bring Kite back. Please save Kite. It's such a touching moment. And we even have a moment where even Killua is crying because Killua's like, I'm going to be losing my best friend. Like, it's just everyone just filled with so much emotion, so much sadness, you know, and yeah, Killua also is like, yeah, I'm gonna lose my best friend, but also like when you see your best friend crying like this, your best friend beating themselves up, saying like, I'm too weak, it's sad. You would cry too. It's just it's so depressing, man. So as Gon and Killua are heading back to town, where Knuckle and Kite are now heading to NGL, Gon eventually kind of wakes himself up from his like depression and is basically like, all right, now it's time I gotta train. When Kite comes back, I'm gonna show him how much more I've gotten stronger. And I love a moment where Spin is just like, hey man, I'm glad you woke up, because I would have never allowed you to see Kite if you were going to be depressed all the time, right? Like, it's just this great moment of like, I know Kite so much that like, if you're still sad over this and not trying to train to become harder, like you are not worth seeing Kite. And we also get another moment where Spin shares us a story about Kite, where she's like, the reason why I became a hunter is because I need to pay off a debt. And that debt is Kite's debt. Kite purchased an entire mountain for Spin because Spin and I forgot the other person's name. I apologize. But essentially the other two friends of Kite were basically like, we want to save these swans and we bought this mountain so that the swans like won't be harmed. Basically a nature reserve essentially is what they were doing. And Kite bought it for them. And so Spin's like, I'm becoming a hunter to get money because I want to pay Kite back for his kindness. Because she was like, this guy just treat us teenagers as adults, and we couldn't be more thankful about that. So just showing us how much of a big heart Kite has. And we arrive at the mansion. Spin drops us off. Here we are at the mansion, and boy, howdy, is not happy to see these. She is absolutely not happy to see these two. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting this. We had like very funny jokes in Volume 20 about like the flirtation between Palm and how much she likes Gon. But the fact that Palm was like, you know what? I don't want you to stick a needle in your eye. I want you to be my girlfriend. And it's, well, I don't know. That's a wild thing. An absolutely wild moment. But what I find what's very sweet about this moment is that Gon is like, oh, I can't go on a date with you today. And she starts to freak out, right? She is upset. But then Gon, putting on the charm, is like, actually, it's because I want to save it for tomorrow because it's a secret and it's like something really special and I'm going to share it with you, okay? And immediately changes the mood on Palm. She's like, oh, a date? Okay. All right, I'll go on a date with you. And I really like this moment because it's like, where did you learn this, Gon? How are you able to diffuse Palm so easily, so quickly, and understand what she wants, Oh, it's because later do we learn that on Whale Island, a ship full, an all-female ship docks on Whale Island, and they like younger men, and they date Gon or something along those lines. Once again, I called the FBI multiple times in the last my reactions, and Gon learns about like the dating culture and how to treat women and everything. And we have Killua here. Not only is he like stunned that this is a real thing that happened in Gon's life, but also impressed that he is so experienced. It's just there was also a little moment which I did not take a screenshot of, where we also get to see a glimpse of like Killua being depressed because he's like, Gon is so different from which was just a really sad thing because look, I definitely have been there before. When I would hear that a friend of mine or someone I know would be dating, you would feel like your heart would drop a bit. It was like, oh, I thought we were like bros. I wish I could also be dating, There's like a little bit of sadness that you get in it. And especially since Killua is dealing with a whole lot of stuff, especially about like having to leave Gon behind because he's not strong enough. It just kind of hurts him more. But this is just, it's wild that we're getting to a Palm date. And the fact that Gon even calls like the all-female crew cougars is like insane. It's so wild about this. And you know what? Let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about the Palm and Gon date, because Palm goes through the Princess Diary evolution and she becomes this girl. Now, I will be look, I'll be honest, I like the creepy charm of old Palm. You know, this is a Palm trying too hard, but you know what? It's fine because she enjoys it. She wants to look this way for Gon, and that's fine by me. And I love that we get this moment where Killua is like heavily breathing. He thought this would be a goofy date, and he's all of a sudden realizing that he is just feeling like a stalker of watching Palm and Gon go on a date. Now, the reason for this is because Gon did lose against Knuckle, and Knuckle's ability, Loan Shark, does take your Nen away. So for 30 days, Gon is without Nen. And Killua's like, bro, I have to protect you. So I'm gonna stalk you on this date. And so they approach this absolutely gorgeous environment. There's a beautiful tree in the background. There's water everywhere. And Gon, being the gentleman that he is, holy moly, he whips out a chair for Palm. Bro, what a absolutely incredible. He's like, Palm, hey girl, take a seat. And then they go ahead and look at this tree. This is basically sea fireflies are in breeding season. And so this tree is being lit up like a Christmas tree. She is so stunned at the beauty. And Gon gives her this bouquet. And he's like, hey, this is the prettiest bouquet. Here you go. And she's like, this is what you gave me? Confused, but not sad. And then we see these awesome panels where we see the fireflies being attracted to the bouquet and eventually forming beautifully bright bouquet for her. And it's just one of those things where it's like, man, dude, Gon is... When I thought Gon was one thing, he's absolutely another thing. Just being an absolute gentleman, being so experienced and so amazing. It's so funny when we look at like the Hunter exam arc, and it's like, oh, you know, Gon just doesn't, he's clueless about a bunch of things. And here's Leorio like, you know, I want to touch the girl's boobies. And then here we have Gon being the most gentleman in the history of this manga. It's awesome. I freaking love it. This was like such a great reveal. So yeah, I greatly love this moment. I should also mention, during the scene where they were working out, where Palm was, or Killua was like, hey, how'd you know to deal with Palm? Goes on to explain that he used to date people. And then Killua, being surprised, like, what do you mean you've been on dates? And Gon's like, specifically mentions Aunt Mito and the female ship crew. Doesn't mention Noko, which is a very important point, since last volume I mentioned I was trying to figure out who Noko is, why is Noko important, why do we even know the name Noko? And I was like, oh, it's probably, you know, maybe a childhood thing. Maybe the promise that they made when they were younger was getting married, but he doesn't mention Noko here, which I think now we can kind of start to assume different things about what this Noko character is like. Either way, it was just very wonderful to see a moment that we won't get to see from Gon, I think, at all. I don't think Togashi is really trying to write a romance manga for Gon. And the fact that we even get a moment where Gon is like, hey, Palm, I appreciate this time that we had, but I can't give you any more of my time because I want to go save Kite and I need to go train. And I think that's like a great moment where, like, hey, this was cute and fun, but this is not going to stay forever. Of course, Palm, being the psycho that she is, she does not take this very well. And instead forces Gon, I don't know what all these say, but probably they say something like, I'm sorry or something, you know, making him apologize to her. And we even get this creepy face here where she's going to kill Killua, because Killua is like trying to stop her. and she tries to strike at him. Killua dodges out of the way. She goes in for a gulp or something, and Killua takes Gon away. They run away, and then she's like, let me pack my knives. I'm gonna go ahead and kill these boys. And as they run away, we see what her ability is. This little freak of nature mermaid, which when she uses her blood, she's able to basically have it become a scrying orb to just spy on people, essentially. And so she's like, oh, I know where they are. I'm gonna go after them. And Nav, being the gentleman that he is, he's like, damn girl, your blood is a precious time limited resource. You can only use your blood for. And she's like, oh, Nav. Oh, my husband. And so, issue resolved? Palm's not gonna get mad at Gon and Killua anymore? Maybe? We'll see. But I really just love the way that Togashi has written this like small romance of just like, here's a fun gag, not taking itself too seriously, while we have a ton of other serious moments in this. Which I skipped this, but remember when I talked about why Killua was there? It's because he was trying to protect Gon. And, well, Killua runs into Ramuh. And this is an incredible, and I will be honest, semi-confusing moment. Because Ramuh is here because he senses humans. He's going to go ahead and kill. And what is so fascinating about this moment is that Killua is once again bombarded by the words of Illumi telling him to run away. And it's Killua struggling to fight back and break free from Illumi constantly haunting him in his mind, just saying, run away, run away. That self-defense mechanism, constantly hammering it in. And as we see it, because of this indecision and this internal fight that Killua is having, Killua is frozen not only in fear, but in indecision. So during all of that, Ramuh is just beating on Killua. Killua has no defenses. He is unable to fight back. He's unable to do anything because of this. It's absolutely so wild. And we get this really powerful moment where as he's just getting beaten up, he just starts to yell and he starts to it's like, no, I can't run away. I can't run away. I can't run away from my best friend. And we get one of the best panels in this manga. And it's just all the times that Gon and Killua have been best friends and how much Gon is physically out loud saying to Killua how much he cares about him. And it's Killua finally having that resolve of going, no, I need to do this for my best friend. And then we see this awesome moment where he's getting that resolve and he stabs his own head and pulls out this device. And we'll talk about this device in a couple of minutes because this device has freed Killua. Once he removed it, he is free. And we see this immense aura surrounding Killua. To Ramuh, it feels like this is my predator, a snake about to eat the rabbit. Killua is intense. He is ready. He is like, tell the other ants if they come near us, expect to end up dead. And then immediately changing his mind and just crushing Ramuh's head without trouble. And this is something I wanted to talk about, is the device. Because to me, I was hoping for this, the internal struggle that Killua was having with Illumi. I was hoping that to be an actual like mental trauma that he is facing and that he needs to overcome and needs to trust his friends and all of these things. However, for me, it felt like a lot of the fear and trauma can just be chalked up to this device that Illumi implanted in Killua's brain that caused these things. So kind of takes away a little bit of that character resolution in themselves and overcoming like trauma and overcoming this fear, when this fear wasn't necessarily because of Killua, it was because of this device. And so I'm hoping that Togashi reintroduces that trauma in some way for Killua to overcome. And who knows, maybe when he's actually confronted by his brother in person, he'll have that fear again. And maybe this implant is just for when Killua feels threatened. So it's not necessarily the fear of not having friends and the fear of losing Gon and all that other stuff is probably still there. Maybe this implant is just for running away. I'm not quite sure, but I don't like that now I have to think about it in this way because of this implant. Now I'm like double guessing whether is Killua really feeling these emotional problems? Is he really trying to overcome them? Is it because of his implant? What if Illumi installed something else in his brain? What if there is like a Nen ability that we don't know about from the Zoldyck family that is causing Killua to act the way he is? Like, now all of these things have been introduced that muddy up what I thought was an awesome character development of a character trying to overcome their trauma that they had, to now going, oh, is this a Nen ability? Oh, is this an implant? Oh, is this something else other than Killua's own self holding himself back and trying to fight through that? So it is unfortunate that the resolution is an implant in your mind. So hopefully things change. So hey, let's talk about Meruem now. Okay. So the introduction of the Chimera King is absolutely insane because he just punches out of the Chimera Ant Queen's stomach, tells her to shut up, and just basically leaves her to die. And he's like, see you later. Oh, also he has like a giant stinger, right? And he just basically tells, well, he is so complicated because he is like, I'm king. He's a spoiled brat. He kills our poor penguin guy. He's like, sir, dead, absolutely dead. He tells Colt to like, hey, clean up my stinger. And then this old lady is like, oh, I got a hanky for you. And then the old lady just freaking dies. Okay, and Colt's like, what the hell is happening here? And like, he's killing everyone, and your mother is dying. And then he's like, I don't care. I don't freaking care. And what a unique introduction to a character, because we'll talk about Colt later. I have a very weird, I'm conflicted with Colt's feelings on this, but either way, the king is like, you know what? Where's my feast? Where's my feast? And of course, we have the royal guards going, oh, yes, sir, we will, yes, you are our king. We will believe and trust you anything. And then not only does he just blow open a hole, keep in mind, he just got birthed like a couple of minutes ago and is already this powerful, this strong, still doesn't know Nen at this point. And then we also learn that Menthu has wings. Okay, sure. And then apparently at the top of this nest, they have a throne room, and he realizes that, oh, you know what I want? This food sucks, these fruits. I need some actual food. So the king is like, look, I want some food here. I want some damn food. This food just does not taste good. I want something. He was like, I was fed something when I was being birthed, and I'm not sure what it is. And Neff's like, oh, it's the rares. That's what you're feeding. And they're like, all right, time to go hunting. And then obviously they certainly hunted. Okay, these poor family got hunted, and the king is like, nah, man, these humans taste like trash. I need something more powerful. And it's a very fascinating moment. Neff is like, or sorry, these aren't rares. I can search for, and then he just slashes Neff. It's like, I know what they look like. I just want to try them out, you know. I like the mystery if I don't know whether they have Nen or not. And then Neff's like, oh, yes, sir. You know, so definitely crazy simping happening all throughout here. And so they're like, okay, well, let's head somewhere else. And they certainly do. They head for East Gordo Republic, which is essentially from the way it has been described in the story, at least from my understanding, is that this is kind of the capital of the Miten Union. So from the way they have described it so far, it sounds like this is a part of this union. And it's kind of crazy what happens. From my understanding, the Miten Union was maybe, for the way they set it up, the East Gordeau was kind of the palace, and we have this gentleman here who has a bunch of bunny girls dancing for him, Kim Jong, which, you know, really... Look, Togashi is not afraid of his real-world counterparts, and we are probably in North Korea at this point. It's like, we probably are. This is probably it. It makes perfect sense with the way everything is built up around here. Either way, as this guy is enjoying the little bunny girls doing their bunny girl dance, Meruem is kind of wreaking havoc. The guard in front of the gates that are basically before the theater, he's a rare. And Meruem is like, oh, I could taste the aura from so far. I'm going to have a fun time, pleasure time, just wreaking absolute havoc. And you know what? He's like, oh boy, this tastes great. And he finally tastes a rare. And it convinces him that this is what we need to do. And so what he does is, not only does he kill the leader of the Miten Union, but on top of that, he decides to turn this entire palace into a meat orchard where they'll be breeding humans to feast on. Absolutely crazy. And as we'll get to later in this video, this happens. It feels like this happens around the time that Gon and Killua lost against Shoot and Knuckle. So when we get to the end of the volume, when Gon has finally waited for 30 days and is able to get his Nen back, I really want to see what happened in those 30 days when it came to the king, because they probably have already gotten their meat orchard set up and everything, it's going to be a horrifying sight to see, a horrifying moment for absolute sure. It's just, yeah, dude, this is some crazy stuff that was about to happen. And also, Neff on top of that is like, I'm just gonna control this guy and hope for the best. And what I love about this scene particularly is that we're viewing this from like a TV that basically the extermination squad is now watching on the TV, and they're seeing this happen. And I love that the newscaster announcer is like, well, he's hosting a party. He's hosting an event here at the palace, and he wants everyone to join, and it's free public transport. And it's like, the only time you would do that is if you're doing some sort of succession or trading off. But like, they're like, but why would he ever do that? And it's like, are they going to give us a double reverse where this guy is going to give Meruem the ability to lead? Like, hey, you are now the new leader of this union? I don't know. It's also a great way to get more humans into the meat orchard. So it's going to be a wild thing to see, and also a very scary moment. I am really not quite sure I really don't know what to expect in the upcoming events when it comes to this. I feel like we might be seeing some pretty horrifying things about this meat orchard for sure. Some disgusting things, some panels that I'll be like, because you know, when going through this manga, there are panels where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to show you guys this. There's probably going to be a lot of that as we move forward, because these are probably the most ruthless of villains that we have seen in the series that have the power to do horrifying things. Because sometimes we'll have these horrifying villains, but they don't get the chance to do it, or they don't get the power to do it. But here, they are finally having the power to do it. They're finally having these moments where they have the upper hand against our characters. And so I'm very worried to see what unfolded in those last 30 days. It is absolutely threatening. But let's actually now talk about the Extermination Squad. We talked about Gon, we talked about Killua, we've talked about the Chimera King being Meram and the Royal Guards. However, there's a huge core of this that we haven't yet talked about, which I think has some crazy future implications on not only what's going to be happening in this arc, but in future arcs. Because in the Extermination Squad, after the king bursts out of the queen, Colt comes flying towards Nav and Moral with the white flag, which, you know, very strong indication of like, wait, how do you know that this flag means surrender? And it's just this really fascinating moment where Colt is like, I need your help. My queen is dying. The king, he's evil. And this is a very interesting word because Colt has a moral compass, but because he doesn't see humans as a species worthwhile, you know, he sees humans as prey or sees humans as cattle and food. He doesn't really think about whether it's good to kill humans or not. So he makes this moral judgment about like, I'm good, the king is evil. And so this was a very interesting choice of words. And we don't really talk about it outside of that. Moral and Nav are like, yeah, okay, sure thing, buddy. Like, whatever. And I like that they were kind of talking. They were kind of chatting with Colt about like, I mean, they're like, yeah, he seems kind of honest. Like, and they're like, you know what? Let's just talk to Netero. Let's see if he's going to even care about this, you know, because hey, having someone on the Chimera Ant side is highly helpful, highly useful for intel, just in general. So they're like, hey, okay, talk to Netero. Netero agrees. We won't have an issue with you, you know, joining our crew. And I like that Netero is just like, well, sounds like it's a good plan. We're gonna go ahead and fight the king. And we get this weird moment where he puts on his heart outfit, as they called it. And apparently this is the outfit that you only get to see him when he's real serious. And he demonstrates his incredible nen to Colt, and Colt's like, yeah, you're gonna die. And then we get this incredible panel of Netero going, oh, so it's a challenge then. It's absolutely incredible. I love it so much because I love when it's like these characters have been holding themselves back for so long, and now we're gonna get to see these real fights between this character. The fact that the Netero is always like, well, I'm just because throughout this like arc, he's just like, well, I'm not that strong. I ain't that strong. And then Nav and Moral are like, no, you are that strong. And then now when it's actually a serious time to get serious, he's like, all right, now it's a challenge. So I'm very excited to see Netero in true action, because we got the amazing moment in last chapter where he just destroyed a bunch of Chimera Ants without an issue. So I am so thrilled and excited to actually see this happen. And so with Netero's approval, they go to help the queen, save her life. Netero is like, just bring in the Chimera researchers. They're going to help you out. And so they bring in the Chimera researchers, and well, we don't really get the news that we wanted to get. Although they have the artificial organs and they can attempt to repair her, the queen in her last words is just curious about her son living, and just wondering about the health of her son. And it's like, yeah, this is sad, you know, if you think about it through the perspective of a mother who only cares for her son. But at the same time, we don't really care about the Chimera Ant Queen. Like, we understand through Colt's perspective. It's very sad through Colt's perspective, because Colt is just struggling to come to terms with trying to save his queen and being unable to, and her not wanting to live, this struggle. And we hear from Colt that like how am I going to lose her again? And it's just this incredible moment where we finally get confirmation that as these chimera ants are evolving and getting older, their human memories are returning to them. So they're remembering things from their past. Some of them are remembering their former names. And so when we heard in last volume, actually I think it was 2 volumes ago, where Colt was confused when he said the word Reyna, it's like, oh, now we know that Reyna is definitely someone super important to Colt when he was a human, and she died for some reason that I'm gonna guess we're gonna learn about, because we got a specific character name, and as we will quickly learn, Colt joining the crew. We get to see this moment where Morel is crying. He is so moved by how much care Colt had for the queen and how much he was willing to risk his own life to save the queen. Morel being absolutely in tears, going, as long as you don't kill a human, or he specifically says eat, as long as you don't eat a human, I am willing to protect the both of you with your lives. And what does he mean by both of you? I did not take a picture of this because it was super gross, but we find out that the Chimera Ant Queen had 2 kids. The king being the ultra buff one who took all the nutrients, and then the little tiny fetus. And so Colt held the fetus in his hands and he was like, I'm going to protect you, little buddy. It's okay. And so obviously that's gonna, the Chimera ants have grow so quickly. Maybe the baby will actually end up growing like to some point by the end of this arc. I'm not quite sure, but I feel like this is definitely a build up something. It would also be, like this has to be a character that we're going to see at some point. It's very fascinating. And I love that Togashi left it at this, where we are finally seeing a little bit of resistance from the Chimera ants against the king and those who want to be peaceful, kinda. For the sake of their queen, they want to be peaceful, even though their queen was very evil. But regardless, you know what? We're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They're trying their best now. So we'll see how Colt and the fetus are doing. Hopefully we'll learn more about them next volume, because I'm very, if you're like, okay, which of the story threads are you most interested in? I'm really interested in that story thread the most, just because of how unexpected it is and how much potential it could have. I'm really interested in learning more about that. At the same time, we get this incredible moment where Knuckles like, this is where I have my soft side. So every time when you go back to the Gon versus Knuckle fight, and Knuckle is constantly being nice to Gon, it's like he got that from Morel's training, which is so perfect because the way they built up Morel, he was this hard ass, and that we actually see he's just a huge softie. So I really love it. But the thing about Knuckle in particular is Knuckle thinks back to when he was a kid, and we get this in. Togashi has drawn this clothing before. It's on a very specific character. It's Kurapika. Forget about it. I'm looking back at Kurapika across time, and it really doesn't look like his outfit at all. Sure, it has like the long garbs, but I don't even know, for some reason I thought he had like a cross on his chest, but that is definitely not the case at all. So mystery solved. There is no crazy reveal about Knuckle. I just thought wrong. So he just might be part of like a nomad tribe or something, then instead of being a Kurata. Because like, look, I'll be honest, yes, we have been told that the Kurata clan got wiped, but in terms of having crazy reveals, like a crazy reveal would be someone other than Kurapika surviving, right? It is within the realm of possibility. And of course, if you're writing a story about, hey, everyone died besides this one guy, and then having that story reveal be, here's another guy. So right now, that is not the case. We don't have to worry about that. too much. I freaked out over nothing. Okay. Now, let's talk about the Chimera leaders. Because, well, now that the queen is gone, no one wants to be ruled by each other. Because, hey, queen's gone, no rule, let's just do our own thing. We are going to be our own kings. And so many of the Chimera leaders decide to split off on their own. However, the story mostly focuses around Cheetu, because Cheetu decides to stroll into town. Now, we do get to see a glimpse of the alligator who's like, I'm looking for women to impregnate, which we're just going to step away from that one. I'm sure he's going to die very quickly. But for Cheetu's like, I'm walking into town and I'm just going to kill people. And even the police were there. The police were like, hey, freeze, hands up. And then just absolutely just eviscerates everyone, eats a bunch of fingers, and it's like, I'm coming back tomorrow, peace out. So Cheetu is just like, I'm out, I ate my fingers, I'm gonna come back tomorrow to kill more humans. And because Cheetu is so fast, no one's able to actually harm Cheetu. And so as Cheetu is running away from the town, Knuckle waits there, ready for a fight. And as Cheetu gets closer and closer to Knuckle, Knuckle goes for a punch, dodges. We have this amazing scene where Moral and Knuckle are fighting against Cheetu and they just can't win. Cheetu is just way too fast. No matter what they do, they cannot get a hit on Cheetu. But Cheetu starts to notice that their punches are very accurate. Like, Cheetu is like, I'm moving so fast, but they know exactly where I am. But they're just way too slow to actually commit to it. And it's just this fascinating moment where Cheetu's like, wow, they're like really accurate, but like they're still not fast enough. And we get this awesome moment where Knuckle and Moral starts to smoke, creates a smoke screen, and Cheetu's like, oh, a smoke screen, that's fine, I can still beat them. And then a punch from Knuckle starts to arrive, and Cheetu avoids it and then realizes, actually, we got Smoke Clone no Jutsu, and a bunch of different Knuckles go in on Cheetu. Cheetu is stunned, it freaks out, and then that gives Knuckle enough time to land a punch on Cheetu, applying Loan Shark, which is absolutely great. And then at the same time, Moral decides to stick his foot out to trip Cheetu. It just absolutely, it was just a great moment to just show the cleverness of our characters to just take down Cheetu. And technically, they even admit themselves that like they were not there enough to fight Cheetu. But because Loan Shark is applied, eventually Cheetu is going to lose the ability to use Nen as long as Knuckle is within a range. Which I found this very interesting. Loan Shark will still be attached to Cheetu no matter what. However, if Knuckle isn't close enough, Loan Shark will not take interest. Which, very fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. However, Moral says something very interesting that we do see from Cheetu, which is that eventually they're going to learn. They learn quick. Eventually they'll learn how your Loan Shark works. And so we do see that moment where Cheetu realizes that, oh, this is Nen. This is an ability. I need to conquer this with something other than speed. And so we don't get a moment with this again. Like, this is it. And from the way the timeline is from this story, we don't know what happened to Cheetu for at least a 29-day period. Maybe like 30 days or 31 days, maybe even more. So that is where it's like, what happened to Cheetu in that time frame? So I'm very curious if we'll ever jump back to that. I assume so, because Cheetu is a threat to everyone around here. So like eventually we'll have to eliminate them at some point. So we'll see how that all turns out. Now, there's a reason why Kite and Moral met up with Cheetu. It's because everyone is returning from their trip in the NGL. Because what they found when they were helping out the Chimera Ant Queen was that they found Kite. And as they told Gon on the phone, it's not going to be happy. He's right now still under the control of a Nen user. Basically, prepare yourself. Please be prepared. And so they arrive with Kite. And we start to learn that one of Shoot's abilities is that when he does enough damage on you, he is able to store a piece of you inside his birdcage. And so that's how we saw that Killua lost like his left eye. However, for Kite, they had to beat up Kite, his whole body, to just store his entire body inside the birdcage. And when they let him out, he came out like a monster. And although he had no Nen, and so we didn't have this emanating aura, we still had this haunting presence surrounding him. And he looked just destroyed, beaten up. We get this really sad moment of Gon looking at Kite and like, what did they do to you? We quickly learn that they were just using Kite as a training dummy to train all of the Chimera ants. And so when you look at all these scars all over Kite, it's like it's just him being constantly put together and rebuilt and stitched back up. It's such a sad and depressing thing for such an awesome character. And we get this really powerful moment where Gon approaches Kite, and Moral, Shoot, Knuckle, everyone's in disbelief that why is he approaching Kite? They kind of understand it, but Gon constantly is getting hit back, you know? And he can't, because he doesn't have Nen, he can't protect himself from these hits. And they were doubting, like, you know, Gon, like, it looks like Gon is trying to learn his movement, but like, they're like, it's not enough because he's going too fast. And then we see finally Gon going in for a dodge. And I love that we get these shocked expressions of everyone like, what, how'd you do that? And Killua was like, yeah, of course he did that, because like, that's how he learns through combat. And we get this extremely powerful scene where he hugs Kite and he just kind of tells him that I'm sorry. And of course, Kite can't reciprocate. Instead, what happens is it triggers Neff's ability, the Puppet Master, showing up, and Kite becomes even stronger to fight. And Knuckle and Shoot kind of tell Gon that like, we had to like, they're like, hey, he got powerful. We tried our best to like stop him from attacking. Like, we had to beat him up a lot to even get this to a point. You just have to you have to stay away from him, and then he won't attack you if you're not near him, essentially. And it just destroys Gon. It just destroys Gon to the point where for all of this show, he wants desperately to save him and to help him. We see his concern throughout this entire series of how much when he cares about someone that he's willing to do anything for him, including risking his own life. And then when he realizes that he just isn't strong enough, he starts to break down, because his whole thing is that he wants to be strong. He wants to protect the people he cares about. And now, in this moment, to someone who means so much to him, where he can't, it breaks him inside. And this is one of the most saddest moments in this entire manga. But it's when Gon starts to walk away. When he has realized that this person that he cares so much about, he has to leave him. He can't help him right now. And he might not ever be able to help him. And Gon is carrying this weight of, I was weak, carrying this weight of, it's my fault, carrying this weight of, I can't help him now. That realization, that sadness that we see in his face, and he walks away from Kite. It was one of the most saddest moments. It was definitely the saddest moments in the manga. You can check out my reaction where I was crying. It's such a sad moment, because this is everything Gon was afraid of not being, of like every single element of this character has now been broken down. And it's so sad to see Gon like this. And we have this really powerful moment where Knuckle is like, how'd you guys learn so quickly? And Killua's response was, nothing happened. and says they're the ones who changed us. And this wording makes me feel that the reason why they grew so much was because of Knuckle, was because of Shoot, was because of Biscuit and Palm, of the people around them that helped them grow to this extent, to be this powerful and this strong. It's just an incredible moment for a character that quite literally leads up to the 30 days later. We're Gon. Nen, he's no longer, like, Loan Shark is no longer taking away, or sorry, technically at this point, it's IRS now. The IRS is no longer taking Gon's Nen. Gon is now free to use Nen. And Moral is like, I need you to fight me. I need you to prove to me that you are worth taking along on this journey because I don't see it yet. And he's like, just imagine that I was the enemy who did that to Kite. And so as Moral bulks up, Gon focuses, thinks about what happened to Kite, thinks about Neff. We get the cat eyes show up where Gon is kind of basically blacking out and solely focusing on his John Ken. He is summoning Rock. And keep in mind, when we look back at this one, we see sweat marks coming down Moral. Moral is feeling the hot suit, the presence of Gon, and the threatening aura that he is emitting. It is so powerful. We get moments where it feels like energy or wind is blowing the hair back on Moral for just how much power and how much threatening aura that is consuming and being released from Gon. And Killua, it takes Killua to pat him on the back and go, hey Gon, it's all right. And we get this extremely scary moment where Gon goes, oh yeah, sorry about that. I almost killed you. And it's just a wild moment. A very funny gag here where Moral's like, yeah, funny. Yes, funny. It's just absolutely incredible because on the train ride there, right? On the train ride, because right now the Extermination Squad, they're all going straight for East Gordeau to fight the Royal Guards and the King. And on that ride there, Nav and Moral were talking about this very thing, about like Gon lost a passion for fighting, and they're like, well, he's saving it for when it truly matters. And when we see part of that come out and go, oh yeah, he's been holding it in. He is so mature in so many different ways, and that he is like holding this in, holding this energy in till he can release it against his enemy is absolutely incredible, man. And of course, we get our cool matchup because Netero gives us a call. He's like, well, you boys are ready to fight. Let's go ahead and get this done. And we have our fight teams going. Great. I love it, dude. I love that this is the last panel of the volume, just setting up like these are your cast of fights that we're going to be seeing in the next volume. It's going to be so exciting, man. Oh my god, dude. Volume 21 has been absolute joy to read. I apologize if the review was a little bit more scatterbrained. There was just way too much to talk about. But looking at my notes here, I do feel like I did actually cover up most of, actually I covered basically everything I said. So it's just maybe that I just kind of, it was a little bit scattered brained a bit, but yeah, I actually did cover all the things I wanted to talk about. But yeah, absolutely freaking incredible volume. I'm assuming I'm not going to have much to talk about in the next couple of volumes, just because if we're going to be mostly doing fights and not much dialogue, there's not much I can honestly say. You know, I'm not the best at describing a fight with the punches and the kicks, whatever, the things, you know, but I have been loving Hunter x Hunter so far. And I did read a comment on volume 19 that asked if I can do like a review so far and predictions of the series and where I feel like the characters might be going and just my general thoughts of so far. I feel like I'm going to share my general thoughts at the end of the Chimera Ant arc. So I'm gonna wait till at the end of that to share my review of the arc as well as just my overall thoughts so far. When it comes to predictions, I'm actually a little bit of a different manga reader than most, because I am reading each of these volumes multiple times, like once to multiple times a week. I really don't give myself time to theorize. You know, obviously, when you see my reactions to things, I'll be like, oh, is this related to this? Or this is related to this, like top of the mind things, or like small things. But when it comes to like what would happen to Gon in the next arc or something, that's something that I really don't really think about too much, because I'm just like, I just want to let Togashi do his work, you know? Sure, I'll make like one-off predictions here and there throughout reading the manga. Comes to like true theory crafting, where I'm like, let's go ahead, sit down and theory craft. That's something where, for me, I just want it to be natural. If I'm gonna have a theory, you're gonna hear it in a reaction. But when it comes to like making a whole video about theories or what I think about the future, yeah, Hisoka versus Chrollo fight, that's gonna happen, right? But when it comes to like, I can't even think of like a proper question. So who knows? Maybe if you all have, actually, yeah, you know what? That might be very interesting. If you all are curious, if you all have questions for me to answer during some of these review portions, definitely post them in the comments and I can go ahead and save them for future videos, our future reviews, to give you my answer. So that might actually be a thing that you might be interested in. So maybe we might do that. Maybe when I start doing live streams of through the Succession arc or stuff, I'll be answering more questions from you all about like, hey, do you think this is going to happen? Do you think this is going to happen? Why do you think this is going to happen? And I can answer those, because right now in my mind, when I'm thinking about theory crafting stuff, all I'm really thinking about is like, Noko's going to show up at some point and we're going to find out what their promise is. You know, Chrollo versus Hisoka is gonna happen. I'm very curious about what's gonna be happening with Abe. Is he gonna die? Because I greatly worry about the Nen Beast that will come out of Chrollo. Yeah, no, there's just so many different things. So I don't know. It's gonna be. We still haven't even learned too much about Meteor City and the backstory behind the Phantom Troop. I'm still thinking that Gyro is an incredibly powerful character, stuff like that, you know. So maybe you can let me know in the comments about like things that you're interested in hearing me talk about, and I can address those in a future review video. That might be fun. So either way, thank you all so much for taking time to watch me react and review of Hunter x Hunter. It's been fun doing these reacts and reviews. I'll be honest, I've had a great time. I most certainly will probably be changing the format when I do a future manga series, because a lot of people love the reaction. Not many people like to watch the review. And so, you know, I feel like maybe what we can do is just have the reaction and then we'll have a short discussion of the review and then maybe a longer review of an entire arc rather than an entire volume. Still thinking about that, still looking about changing up the format, making things a little bit fresh and new. But for Hunter x Hunter, we're sticking it the same, because at least to me, organization wise, it's like it'd be weird to have a playlist that has reviews and then all of a sudden the reviews to stop because I incorporate that in the reaction. Like, to me, that still is weird. So I'll still keep it the same for Hunter x Hunter. That is it from me. Thank you all so much for taking time to watch this video, and until next time, I will see you. Bye.